Hey, and we're back with the final two-comic review.
Aquaman!
And
Aquaman!
we have another one lined up.
Who gives a shit? Aquaman!
But also Justice League Dark.
Yeah, whatever.
Do you want to go to Justice League Dark?
Yes,
first?
just to build suspense for Aquaman.
Yes.
It's odd because I don't normally like to say one of these comics significantly overshadows the other, but seriously, Aquaman.
Mm-hmm.
What is Justice League Dark about?
It's these gathering of these magic, not so much superheroes, but these magic users in the DC universe who can take care of magic stuff that the other superheroes can't because they're more secularly inclined.
Yes.
I guess.
And who is on this team? It's not actually a team at this point, but the characters that we are following are Madame Xanadu, who has also so far made an appearance in
Deadman.
Not Deadman.
Anthology, what DC Universe presents.
She wasn't in that. You're thinking of Resurrection Man.
Ah, yes.
She was reading the future in Resurrection Man,
Mm-hmm.
and she was also, quite clearly, in Demon Knights.
Yep.
So, she's racking up the points.
Mm-hmm.
We have Zatanna, the Magician.
Yep.
Deadman, who was in DC Universe Presents.
Enchantress, who's not really on the team, but I'm picking her nose anyway.
Yeah, apparently she's the enemy.
And this is Shade, Changer of Fates, or whatever his name is.
Shade the Changing Man, something like that.
Yep. And
Is John Constantine on the cover?
Yeah, there is. John Constantine.
John Constantine. Strange thing, he is apparently now part of the DC Universe.
And smelly.
Yes, and he's what? He's not smelly.
Yeah, he is. He says, "My name's John Constantine, so you better hold your noses now."
Yeah, I guess he is kind of smelly.
Because he's a hobo. Anyway, I'm just making that up. I really have no idea.
So, what is the plot of this? We are introduced by... Oh, and also June Moon.
Yes, June Moon, who is
I don't know who she is.
the mysterious person who may have a plot significance.
Apparently she needs to see a dead man.
Yep.
You know, one thing that I find very impressive about this, it's got, a shot of all these people on the cover, and they are all in the comic.
Yep.
Now that is impressive. Good work, cover artist. Now, we're introduced to, essentially, Madame Xanadu, who introduces the entire plot to us.
Yep.
Are you going to sing the song?
No.
Oh. We should review that movie at some point.
Yes, I want to.
Only,
Love that movie.
I will be very disappointed if it's not actually a Madame Xanadu movie.
It
We're
is.
introduced to Madame Xanadu, who says that she has seen the future, and the future has looked back at her and said, mind your own business. But there's a great evil befalling the world, and she introduces us to all these different characters as we see into their lives and little things going on with them.
Mm-hmm.
And we also get, toward the end, a whiff of the plot. Enchantress is in an envelope somewhere in Kansas or something. She's going crazy and making the entire world go crazy, too.
Mm-hmm.
I don't really know who Enchantress is, I'm sorry.
Me neither.
So we're just going with what the comic tells us, which is sometimes the best way to approach a comic. But,
Enchantress is going crazy, and the whole world's going crazy with her.
Yep, there is a factory that...
Gained consciousness.
And it threatens to destroy itself because it's bored.
Yeah.
That line and a couple others sound really Douglas Adams-like.
Uh-huh.
It's,
Marvin the Factory.
something like that. And then, anyway, the Justice League tries to stop them,
but they're incapable of fighting against magic.
So the question is,
we need magic. We need magic to fight magic.
And will these magic heroes be able to come together as a team to fight this great power, or will their own personal problems not allow them to save the future from
magic?
Possible impending doom.
By magic.
Yes, by magic.
Okay. So,
what are your thoughts on this story?
Well, I came out more interested than I came in of the story. I mean, we're not given much time with... I mean, there are some characters we're given more time with than others.
Like John Constantine and
Constantine
Deadman
gets like half a page.
Yeah, they're on they have a page each.
Well, Deadman gets like 3 panels.
Yeah, Deadman is just mentioned. Whereas
Zatanna gets some time. Xanadu is kind of narrating the whole thing. She gets a lot of time. Shade gets
He gets a couple pages
he
here and there.
gets a couple pages to himself, but you kind of get a good insight into him.
Essentially, we're going from character to character, and we're being introduced, like, what's their deal?
Yeah.
What's this character's deal?
Mhm.
Just getting, like, a very, very quick introduction.
But unlike a lot of other team comics that do that sort of thing, they're not in action already.
They're not even a team.
No, they're just being summoned right now.
Yeah.
So it makes sense for them to all be on their own.
Yeah, but at the same time, I find that as a result, that makes the flow kind of choppy
Mhm.
and a little bit, not necessarily difficult to follow, but it just doesn't flow very smoothly.
Yeah.
It feels kind of awkward transitioning from one thing to another. And also, with some characters, I think like June Moon, etc., we get a little bit too little information, so it's a little bit hard to tell what's going on, or it's not as clear as it could be. Actually, for a lot of characters, we don't really get much background. Perhaps we're meant to know who they are already.
Or just if that's not the case, the whole story is kind of dark, so it could just be mystery. I mean, trying to find out who these characters are is just part of the mystery and just part of the wonder of what's happening.
No, I don't think it really feels like mystery, though. Because, I mean, I don't know. And also, I think that because we're just looking at these characters, their characterization is kind of very early in development.
Mhm.
So I'll have to see how that carries over. I mean, I'm trying to think of another team comic that introduces... I can't think of any that actually introduce characters like this, just
Yeah.
going from person to person, but who aren't actually a team. It's odd, now that I'm thinking back, I think probably the best intro for a team was actually Demon Knights.
Yeah.
And visually, what can we say about this comic?
It is very dark and magic-y and black. It's like black magic, sorcery
It's
type.
incredibly pink.
Well,
No, every page, look, every page has
is-
a pinkish hue.
yeah, every page kind of is pinky.
Yeah, pink
But-
is the color of sorcery.
Well, except for the Chantress, who's green.
Yes, but we see the pink hues. It's odd. I think the most interesting part... Could we show some of the pinkish pages?
Okay.
Maybe even just the
The
first,
first page, yeah. Pink.
Just that hue, it continues throughout.
Well, it looks blue on the camera, but
It'll,
that's just the camera.
yeah,
Pink. We could show it on like just a second page.
it's a bit fainter there, but we could even look at that.
Yeah, it's being seen through rose-tinted glasses almost.
Or through magic-tinted glasses. Oh no, wait, I've got a better one. Through hawk-tinted glasses. Hawk is a pun. Always.
Okay, so
And overall, I think if we look at these characters and just sort of their features, like I think that previous page is actually a good example. We could go back. There's a lot put into faces and expressions and that, but it feels very, I don't know, they seem almost like dolls. Not just the women, but just the people in general.
Mhm.
They look a little bit kind of like action figures to me. It's strange. I think the most interesting part is when we get to the Justice League, or the few members who do appear.
that's not really a spoiler.
No,
Yeah.
Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman. We're not going to say what happens to them.
Yeah.
But if you look at those costumes, and especially Batman,
That's only his face.
just show them Batman, because I think Batman looks better here than he has in any of his like 20 other appearances.
Mhm.
Just that is a good point.
He looks stupid in the picture, but
Just
the
just
costume.
the design. It's blacker, but this really sleek look to
Yeah.
it. He looks almost more like Midnighter did in Stormwatch than Batman, but
It's cool looking.
it is, because I think everything has this sort of a sleekness to it, which affects the way that all these characters are drawn. It's actually a lot, almost similar to the way that Blackhawks has a really sleek-looking cover and kind of a rough inside. Here, we've got kind of a rough, sketchy cover and a much sleeker, smoother interior. But again, with this magical haze to
Yeah.
it. So I'm not going to say that I'm blown away by it, but it works. It sets the mood.
Yeah.
Where would you put this on a letter scale?
On a letter scale, well, I didn't really say if you liked it or not, but
Well, that's why you can say
okay.
it now.
So letter scale, I'd probably give it a C plus.
You give it a C plus.
I give it a C plus. Yes.
You give it a C plus. I
and
don't know what I'm doing now.
A C plus, me boy. Me boyo. A C plus.
I have no idea what he's talking about.
I don't know either. So yeah, a C plus in that. I definitely left the comic wanting to know more and interested in how this will develop and what the characters will be like as a team. Like each of the characters on their own is interesting, at least the ones that we're really introduced to. And I do want to find out more about each character. I want to find out more about this big thing that's happening with Enchantress and going crazy. I think that what we see of her effects on the world, like the factory going to blow itself up or whatever.
Cows giving birth to meat slicers.
Yeah, it's all very interesting and just out there, and I like it.
Kind of macabre.
I like
Yet
it.
bizarre.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I would give it probably a C. Maybe a C minus. I think that it sets up the terms of the plot very well. It does a really good job of this. Like, there's no question what this is going to be about.
Yeah.
We know what our terms are, and
Mhm.
we know the problem. The problem is established well. It's portrayed in a convincing and threatening way, and it's interesting. It's not necessarily typical, because they're literally fighting with the forces of reality, or rather, they're fighting in a world that's been created where reality doesn't have the same meaning.
Mhm.
And the characters also seem interesting. My problem is that I think that our introductions to them are kind of cut off, maybe a bit vague at times. So I like what we've seen so far, but I think that it could, even if not being more thorough, I think it could have been at least smoother. And I think that might have. That's why I'm putting it like a C. I think it's a bit choppy, as I said.
Okay.
All right. So, I'd like to see what happens next.
So,
But who gives a shit about any of that?
because we have
Aquaman!
Aquaman.
That's Aquaman.
Aquaman. Aquaman.
Alright. Aquaman.
Who
is Aquaman?
You want to do this one. You do. I see it.
But first, who is Aquaman?
Aquaman is the king of Atlantis, the largest land sea owner in the world.
Yeah, I've said in the past, Aquaman, in terms of just political power and authority, and even like physical power, is the most powerful person on Earth, because most of Earth is water, and
He owns all of it.
he owns the water. He is the king of Atlantis, and he can commune with and control sea creatures. So there's one scene in DC New Frontier. It's just one of the few panels that Aquaman appears in. It's an entire page of him going like this, and he says he has the world's largest army behind him, and you just see all of these sharks. I call it his army of sharkness, just going and just like going forth, and then we don't see him again until.
But it's cool.
It's cool. But let's not talk about that. Let's talk about this.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, born to the Queen of Atlantis and a fisherman, he is the King of Atlantis, and he's also a superhero. And
Nobody likes him.
it's not that nobody likes him. Our story, no one takes Aquaman seriously.
That is the story. The story is Aquaman going around saving the day, and no one believing that Aquaman just did something.
It's no one gives a shit about Aquaman. It's like, wow, your power is you can control fish. Huh. Yeah, why don't you go in the ocean?
Yeah.
Aquaman. Wow, the day just got saved by Aquaman. We're gonna be the laughingstocks of the police force.
Mm-hmm.
Aquaman.
It is.
Why don't you just commit your crimes on land? Aquaman. And it's odd because there was a time when that was my position on Aquaman. That was how I felt about him. And what about you?
Yeah.
Do you like Aquaman?
I do now.
See, he actually, I think his opinion was changed with this book. It's essentially, I think, this book is all of Aquaman's haters, or all of the people who... I think there was a Crack.com article, I think, on... It was either why Aquaman is awesome or why Aquaman sucks, but it was like going into detail about this. There's a TV Tropes article, what kind of lame power is hard anyway, and I think Aquaman is the page image.
Mm-hmm.
He's also the page image for Hard is an Awesome Power. But this book is essentially all of Aquaman's detractors interacting with Aquaman.
And getting shut up.
It's also just demonstrating just how cool Aquaman is. It's as though the plot of this is making...
Aquaman is cool.
It's just showing everything Aquaman can do, but also setting up a plot to continue.
Mm-hmm.
I guess a little bit of the story, and there's a robbery on land, and he fights the criminals, and they're like, the police are embarrassed, and the criminals are kind of embarrassed.
Because they just were defeated by Aquaman.
Yeah, but it's like, they don't care that it's like they can shoot him and he's not affected by the bullets because
he's used to pressures
because his
at
skin
the bottom
can-
of the ocean.
his skin can withstand the pressures of the ocean floor. They don't care, it's like, Aquaman.
Yeah.
Then, Aquaman goes to a seafood restaurant.
And orders fish and chips.
And then we have this great conversation, Aquaman versus the hipster.
Yep.
I am not making this up. He's even got one of those earring things that's like really stupid and goes inside the thing and it's all... He's got a beard. And he's like, "You talk to fish. I do not talk to fish. Yeah, you talk to fish. Hey, how come you suck?" I want to say that song. Hey, how come you suck? That's essentially what they're asking Aquaman. But Aquaman, he demonstrates his badassery.
Yep.
He flips over a truck with his trident. He's rich. He gives away doubloons. But we also
He leaps over tall buildings in a single bound.
He does.
Yep.
But seriously, Aquaman is and I don't want to give away too much, but there's just like, nah, I'm actually going to...
There's not much like story to give away because a lot of the story's kind of at the end.
Yeah.
Like the big arc story.
Yeah, a lot of it is just kind of a self-contained look at Aquaman, but
Yeah.
I think it's a great way to start off a new Aquaman series, because it's like, they've tried to make Aquaman badass, and
They gave him a hook.
give him a hook, and he's like Conan of the seas,
And a goatee.
yeah, but who gives a shit? This is Aquaman!
And this is badass.
This is badass, upstanding, righteous, noble, heroic Aquaman.
Yep.
And I think that's the best Aquaman there is. I'm just trying to have my lunch.
Yeah.
But, and overall, is there anything else? Oh, and also, we get a shot of him with his wife, and I will get to that when I talk about artwork. The artwork, also amazing. And when I say amazing, I think it's because with Aquaman, what do you think of? You think of the ocean. And there are two types of ocean. There is the deep ocean floor, this dark, shadowy place of horrific monsters that we get on. It comes up. Yeah, that's an element to this. But then there's also, he looks like a sunset on the ocean.
Mm-hmm.
With his, I mean, even, I think, this shot of him, I mean, here we've got him actually at sunset in a restaurant, but we've got the glowing gold, and we've got the green and the, it's not so prominent here, but the orange and the gold and the glowing, but also
His
the
blonde
deep, rich
hair.
blues and the gold blonde hair.
Am I showing it? This one? The one I'm pointing to?
Yes. Or, no, is that the one you're pointing to?
Yeah.
Show him after he, when he's fighting the robbers.
Okay.
There. Just looking royal, majestic, powerful,
Mm-hmm.
and, he's something you want to take seriously. So, I mean, and he pulls off heroic feats of strength.
Yeah.
Oh, and even just the splash page of Aquaman.
Splash page.
Oh! I guess you could call it a hawk.
Is this going to be a thing with you now?
It is with me for maybe a few days. So, Aquaman, he looks awesome. Just the visually, and also there's one panel, and I think this shows just what, it's just the subtle things. There's a scene where, I'm not going to give too much away, but he's talking with his wife, and they're on the ocean shore. And without getting into what they're talking about, there's, don't show it yet, I want to set it up, that it's like, they have their exchange, and then they have their romantic moment, and if this were like Catwoman, or even a lot of other things, because she's the sexy woman, you'd have her, like, he gets on top of her and they make out or something, but here, just show this one panel, he so gallantly holds her in his arms and kisses her, like, just holds her up.
And you can see, like, she isn't, you know, like a nymphomaniac either, like, she's also, you know, just fine with, you know, being...
She's his wife.
Yeah, and she just, like, gently comes up and hugs him.
Yes.
It's not really sensual at all. It's just, it's respectful and loving.
It's very gentle and romantic. Yeah. And I think that's something that you don't necessarily have so much in comics, gentle romance, especially when you're dealing...
Aquaman is a gentleman.
Yes, and a gallant gentleman, especially when you're dealing with, like, just such big damn heroes.
Yeah.
And he is a big damn hero, but,
he's Aquaman.
Yeah, and I am, again, this is not just a good review because I somehow love Aquaman. I wouldn't even really put Aquaman in my top 5 heroes, or even characters, but Aquaman here is, I think this is one of just the most fundamentally essential portrayals of Aquaman.
Yep.
I think that this series could go on to I'm not going to say redefine, but codify what everything that Aquaman can and should be. So I am really happy with this. What would you give this?
I would give Aquaman an A.
I'm not sure if I want to go A or A+.
I would say my reason for not giving it A+.
It'll probably be my reason that I'm not going to.
It's too self-contained. Like, we get a little bit of an overarching story, but it's only at the very first page and then a little bit at the end.
Yeah, it's odd because...
So, we get all this awesome stuff with Aquaman, but aside from the reputation element, it doesn't really lead into a bigger story yet.
I agree, but at the same time, I think that perhaps for first issue, if we see more of a character-centric vignette that then segues into a larger story that isn't necessarily just like an action sequence, that really does go to this great depth to explore, to lay out this character, I think it goes into enough detail that I don't really mind that. I mean, I'm going to say that if we had more on what is to come, I probably wouldn't like the issue as much. Not that I'm not going to like it necessarily if it's well written when it does come, but I will say that perhaps, and also there are a lot of themes. Oh, and one more thing I forgot to mention. We see flashbacks to Aquaman's childhood with his father, and there are a few panels of this. And when we see that, it's in sort of this idealistic kind of watercolory old painting type, like this right here, of him with his father, who looks a little bit like Vandal Savage. But, and I think that, even just that nostalgic feel to it, I think it's great. But, so, I don't know, but I do agree also, perhaps, the time that we do spend exploring what's going to follow might be a little bit... I don't know, you know, I really can't complain about that, so I probably am going to give it an A+. So, I don't think this is like a self-fulfilling prophecy or anything, but so far, Aquaman is my favorite comic of this entire relaunch. My favorite standalone comic. I mean, I really like Batman. I really like Green Lantern. Those might end up being better stories in the long run, like the first arcs or maybe even the series. But and oddly enough, Green Lantern is also written by Jeff Johns.
Yeah.
But Aquaman, just as a first issue,
it is, for me, near perfect.
Yeah. I mean...
99%.
And I also think the best thing about just the idea that this is a jumping-on point, this reboot, I think Aquaman really encapsulates it. If you've never read anything with Aquaman, by all means read this comic.
Yes.
And if you know a lot about Aquaman, then by all means read this comic.
Yeah.
So I am going to strongly recommend this. If you hate Aquaman...
Read this comic.
Give it a shot.
Yeah, because it is awesome.
Yeah, I'm not
saying... You will love Aquaman by the end of this comic.
I'm not going to say it's necessarily going to convert everyone, but it's certainly an interesting exploration. So, with that, we are not done. We have one comic left to take a look at, and that is All-Star Western.
Yep.
I'm sad, because I don't think it's going to be Aquaman.
No. But we have to do it anyway, so see you then.